Today we'll be sewing one of our zipper box bags. You can sew this bag up in 4 different sizes and they're perfect for home and travel and anything else that needs a little organizing. You can use just about any stable woven fabric from quilting cotton to canvas and linen to polyurethane laminate. The possibilities are endless. You will need to cut an outer bag and a lining. You will also need a zipper. And you can see what size you need in our sew guide. And you will also need some binding. We've also included instructions for how to cut bias tape for binding in our sew guide as well. Before you start sewing, you'll want to press one edge of your flat bias tape up toward the wrong side by 1/4 inch. Do this to all your bias tape now. First, we'll match up the wrong sides of our outer bag and lining. Then, lay the zipper with the zipper pull side touching the fabric across the zipper edge. If your zipper is longer than the width of the fabric, just be sure you center the zipper teeth across the width. Now, lay a length of bias tape on top of the zipper with the raw edges matched up and the folded edge of the bias tape remaining loose with the folded edge facing upward. Clip the bias tape zipper and 2 layers of fabric together. Over at your sewing machine, change out your regular foot for a zipper foot and sew the length of the zipper. To finish binding the edge of the zipper, fold the bias tape over the edge of the zipper tape and clip it in place. Now, fold the zipper over the edge so that it is lying flat on the lining side of the bag. You're going to sew the zipper tape wrapped in bias binding to the bag. This is a good opportunity to make sure you've installed your zipper correctly. Check now to make sure your zipper pull is on the same side as your outer bag. Okay, now we'll attach the second side of the bag to the zipper. Fold the bag in half with right sides of the outer bag together. Match up the zipper edge to the outer bag and lining just as you did before. And then lay a length of binding on top of the zipper with the raw edge of the binding matched up to the zipper tape and fabric. Again, using your zipper foot, sew the length of the zipper. Now we'll fold the binding over just as we did on the other side. Flip, clip it in place, then fold the zipper tape wrapped in binding to the lining and sew the binding to the bag. You will need to unzip the bag to do this step. Make sure to keep the rest of the bag out of the way as you sew. Now we'll trim the excess zipper. If your zipper fits perfectly, you can skip this step. Using a good pair of sharp scissors, but probably not your fabric scissors, trim the zipper flush with the bag on each side. But before you do, make sure the zipper pull is in the middle of the bag. To make sure it stays on the zipper teeth and doesn't slide off, you can use some removable tape to stick it in place temporarily. If you're adding tabs, you'll make them now. You can do 1 or 2 or skip them if you prefer. To make the tabs, simply put your 2 tab pieces right sides together and sew each of the long edges with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then turn the tabs right side out. You could probably use a tool to help you do this. It took me much longer than it should have. Once you have them right side out, press them neatly and top stitch each of the long edges. Now you'll fold the tabs in half and sandwich them between the top and bottom layers of the bag right at the end of the zipper. Close up the ends of the bag and add bias tape just as you did before, making sure that the raw edge of the binding is sewn into the seam and that the fold is left loose with the folded edge facing upward. Fold the bias tape over the edge on each side and clip it in place. You're going to sew the binding to the bag just as you did with a zipper. It can be a bit tricky to get the bag and binding neatly under your needle, so I recommend removing the extension table / storage box, if you can, and working with the bag unzipped. Go slowly, and if you have to, you can go to the middle, then stop and start again from the other side. Now that the tricky part is done, go ahead and trim off any extra binding so that you can close up the corners. Pinch each corner together and clip it. Go ahead and cut 4 lengths of bias tape that are about 2 inches longer than the corners and attach them to each corner just like you've done before. It doesn't really matter which side of the bag the bias tape is on, just as long as it's consistent. On this one, I put the tape on the short sides of the bag. Sew it in place. Then, just like you've done before, fold the bias tape over the edge. This time, when you sew, you won't be sewing the binding to the bag. You'll just need to sew the binding so that it encases the seam. I cut my binding a little long, so if you did like I did, you can just trim it down now. Then we'll just fold the excess binding over twice, about a ½ inch each time, and tack it to itself with a few short back and forth stitches. Now you can flip it right side out through the zipper and your zipper box bag is finished.